Does it feel good or does it feel true? And I think that's an important question to ask yourself in every situation. Does it feel good or does it feel true? Hello, welcome to Authentically Aligned, a wellness podcast where we speak on all things wellness, from fitness and nutrition to meditation and mindfulness, healing, growth, self-help, and so much more. If you're a new listener, welcome to the podcast. And if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for your love and support. And I want you to know that I'm sending you that same love and support right back. Welcome back to season 2 of Authentically Aligned. I am so grateful for each and every one of you who have listened, who have taken the time to do the self-reflection, show up, and pour love into yourselves. I appreciate your love. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy life to pour back into yourselves. I am so excited for this next year of Authentically Aligned, and I cannot wait for you guys to join me along this journey. As we start out this season of Authentically Aligned, I thought, what better way to start this year talking about authentic alignment? And I don't know if I've shared with many of you the way that this podcast got its name, but authentically aligned to me means living in your truth. And for those of you who have been to any of my retreats, you know that each of the retreats has a theme along with a 6-week behavior and habit change journal that follows the retreat. So one of the themes of my past retreats in years past was authentically aligned. And I created a behavior and habit change journal to help you do the self-reflection, to help you get to know yourself better, for you to really just tap into what it means to live in your personal authentic truth and be authentically aligned with yourself. So today, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what it means to live in your truth, what it means to be authentically aligned. And I would love to share a journal prompt or two with you at the end from my behavior and habit change journal. So stay tuned for that. So what does it mean to be authentically aligned? Being authentically aligned means living in alignment with your core values, your purpose, your desires, and ultimately knowing that each and every single day you are showing up for no one other than yourself. Being in authentic alignment with yourself is ultimately the difference between what feels good and what feels true to you. Now, so often we do things that feel good because we think that because they feel good, it's the right thing to do. However, we know that deep down inside, there is part of what we're doing that isn't fully in alignment with us. We get this gut feeling, we get this feeling in our heart where things just don't seem to be exactly as they should. And I know that I've talked about this many a times, but when you're living in your flow state and when you are surrendering and you are giving everything up to God, that is when you are truly living in your flow state. When you are not trying to take control, you're not trying to manipulate the situation, you are fully just living in alignment with what feels good and true to you. Now, your core values come into play here because if you are showing up in a situation where your values are being diminished or tested, but it still feels good, that is when you know deep down something is not right for you. And oftentimes, because we don't want to make waves, or we don't want to cause conflict, or we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, we go along with it because it still feels good and this is okay and this is fine. Knowing that deep down there is a part of us that is suffering, that doesn't feel good, that feels shaky, for lack of a better word, because we are not in alignment with our core values, with our desires, with our purpose, and we're not pouring into the connection that we have with ourselves. We're not pouring into the connection that we have with God. And both of those things, the connection that you have with yourself and the connection that you have with God, are things that you absolutely have to cultivate every single day. Unfortunately, the work never ends. We are constantly working, we are constantly evolving, and we are constantly growing. And if you are not every single day pouring into that relationship that you have with yourself and that relationship that you have with God, then you are becoming further away from yourself and further away from God. And that means you are moving further away from your purpose, your intentions, your core values, everything that is you, you're moving away from because you're not keeping that connection. Just like the relationship that you have with any of your friends, any of your family members, any of your significant others, you have to actively pour into the relationship. You have to continue to cultivate something in order for it to grow. And that's how the relationship that you have with yourself is. When we decide to live authentically, we are living for ourselves, for our purpose, for the things that we are destined to do, and for all of the things that God has in store for us. Now, what's so interesting is that each time I decide upon a topic to bring to the podcast, I'm thinking about it, I'm doing my self-reflection, I'm understanding the things that I want to share, the things that I want to give, the tokens that I want to share with you guys. And as I was working on this podcast, I kept having so many synchronicities of little things that I would hear that were absolutely in alignment with this episode, that were absolutely in alignment with things that I may be going through and things that I may be experiencing. And now I'm wanting to share with you guys. But something that I heard the other day that resonated so well with me was being mindful of your energy leaks. So I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about how they had this client who was in perfect health and he was doing a million things. He was living this life doing the absolute most. And people were astonished because they didn't understand how he had the energy to do everything that he was doing between running businesses and having a family and all of the above, taking care of himself. But what they realized, and this came from his doctor actually, was that he had no energy leaks, meaning that everything that he was doing was in full alignment with his true self, with his core values, with his purpose. And so he never experienced exhaustion. He never experienced fatigue. He didn't get sick. He didn't get run down because everything that he was pouring into was everything that he was meant to be pouring into. It was everything that was filling him just as much as he was giving to it. And I know a lot of times this is something that is commonly spoken on, is making sure that whatever you're giving to is giving back to you. But I think it's a great reminder for us to understand that this goes for everything that we're doing in our lives. And if you are experiencing something that is giving you that energy leak, you again are slowly moving away from your authentic self. Everything that we do becomes habitual. It becomes routine. We start to move in these ways. So if you are practicing showing up authentically as yourself with your friends, with your family, at home, in your outside world, but then every single day you have to go to work and you are having to hide that authentic self, or you're having to suppress, or you're not showing up as your true self, or you're having to play small. You're practicing that. You are instilling that in your subconscious. You're instilling that in your mind. You're instilling that in your spirit. So then when you do leave work and you do go home to have these authentic connections, they're really not authentic because you're 50% of your life, you're living inauthentically. Your body remembers these things. Your body takes count of these things. Your spirit, your mind take count of these things. So it's important for us to remember, and this is something that I've been working through personally, is where is my energy leaking? Where am I not showing up fully as my authentic self? And where am I not speaking my voice? Where am I not being able to stand up for myself or say the things that are on my mind? And then why? Why am I not able to use my voice in this environment? Why am I not able to use my voice around this person or in this instance? And the more you start to pay attention to these things, the more you'll realize that even if it's in one instance, it's actually pouring over into every single part of your life. So being so mindful of exactly where you put your energy. It doesn't matter if it's, oh, well, I'm just there for like a couple of hours a week and it's okay. I'm just making my money. And I understand we all have a life to live. We all have a livelihood. Life is expensive. But your energy is so much more expensive. Your energy has so much more value, so much more worth. And when you're able to fully let go of anything that is leaking your energy, that's when you're going to live this life of fulfillment, because everything is going to be in alignment. You're going to live in this flow state and everything is going to become effortless. So understanding that energy leaks could be an environment, it could be a person, it could be a habit, a situation that diminishes your energy, that leaves you feeling depleted, that doesn't leave you feeling full. And oftentimes there are very obvious energy leaks, and other times there are very subtle energy leaks. More obvious ones can look like people pleasing or feeling the need to over-explain yourself or procrastination. Those are all visible things that we can kind of see and feel. But where it really trickles down and where it really matters and is so important is when you're experiencing an energy leak because you're ignoring your inner voice, because you're listening to the voices of others, or you're feeling the pressure of the shoulds or the pressure of the people around you, the environments around you. So again, really taking that time to cultivate the relationship that you have with yourself so you can use your discernment and you have the discernment between your inner voice and the voices of anybody other than yourself or God. And really knowing when you hear a voice, that's not me, that's not God. And understanding, okay, now I can move forward knowing that this is probably where an energy leak is happening. Or this is probably where I need to find a little bit more alignment, or where I need to figure out how to find that alignment. And really just taking that time, taking the energy, because so often we think of that as a dreadful thing. We think of, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I need to connect with myself and I need to figure out what is going on and blah, blah, blah. And it seems like it's so draining. It seems like it's going to be the most exhausting thing that we've ever done. But actually, your entire life is exhausting because you're not living in alignment with yourself and you're not living in alignment with your purpose and your values. And so when you are able to really understand that inner voice and listen to it every single day, You're never exhausted because you never have to worry that you're doing the wrong thing. You never have to worry that you're pouring your energy into the wrong thing. And you never have to worry that you're losing energy to the wrong person, the wrong place, the wrong situation, the wrong habit. You know and have 100% confidence that everything you're doing is supporting your authentic alignment and your energy. So how do we know when we're out of alignment? Oftentimes, it is when we're feeling burnt out. It's when we're feeling exhausted. It's when we're feeling anxious, or we feel like something is off, something is wrong, but we really can't figure out what it is that's happening. That is when we know we're out of alignment, because when you're living in that flow and you're living in that alignment, everything feels great. Everything is light. It's a very high frequency. So you're not feeling this heaviness. You're not feeling low. You're feeling uplifted. You're feeling light. You're feeling as if you're floating through life. Physically, it can look like exhaustion. It can feel like major tension in your body, and it can even lead to illness. Your body is so aware of everything that you are going through. So if you're surrounding yourself with the wrong person, or you're putting yourself in the wrong places, your body is 10 times out of 10 going to tell you in some little way, whether it's a rash that you have, whether you're getting sick, or you're tired, or you're starting to lose your hair. All of these things they're signs that your body is telling you something is wrong. And oftentimes we just look for the next best thing, the next best supplement to try and fix these things. But really, majority of time, it goes back to our energy and the things that we're actually pouring ourselves into and the things that we are giving our energy to. So taking the time to be mindful of these things as well, and really understanding the connection that you have between your mind and your body, so that when something does go wrong, you know almost instantly, this never happens to my body. And I just started doing this last week, or I just started spending time with this person last week. Okay, now you're taking mental notes. Now you're understanding. Now it actually becomes fun, because life is actually really just an experiment, and you get to feel out how, if you act a certain way, what happens here? Or if you're around a certain person, what happens here? And when you start to see life as that, it becomes so much more fun. Let me tell you that. And then another way that you can identify whether you're out of alignment is in your behavior, in your actions. A lot of times your behavior, whether it be seeking external validation, whether it be self-sabotaging, or maybe you're just overcommitting yourself and you're going. But oftentimes that is a sign of living out of alignment, because what's happening is, by the time you're experiencing the self-sabotage, and by the time you realize that you're seeking validation elsewhere, you understand, oh, actually, I'm overcommitting here, I'm overcommitting here, I'm overcommitting here. And chances are it's because you're trying to distract yourself. You're trying to fill that void that can't be filled except with going inward, except with finding that alignment with yourself, except with doing that internal work so that you can tune things up. You are like a guitar. You have to constantly tune yourself. Otherwise, you're going to sound crazy, or you're going to be crazy. But this is it's something you have to maintain yourself. So yes, we maintain our physical by going to the gym. We maintain our appearance by getting our hair cut, getting our hair done, getting our nails done, all of these things. But guess what? You have to maintain your insides so much more, and so much more meticulously than you do your external. Because when your internal is out of alignment, so is everything else in your life. And that's something you'll start to pay attention to also. When you're feeling disconnected, a lot of the times, if you're typically a neat person and you're tidy and you keep everything pretty well organized, but you find these seasons of your life where, oh my gosh, my place is a mess, my car is a mess, this is a mess, this is a mess. that is very telling of something being out of alignment. It's not because you're overworked. It's not because you're stressed out. It's not because you have this going on. Maybe, yes, those things are happening to you, but those things are happening to you because you are living out of alignment with yourself. So when we do finally realize that we are not in authentic alignment with ourselves, how do we path correct? How do we get back on track and get back in alignment with ourselves? First thing is asking yourself questions, journaling, taking the time to meditate. Like I said, tuning inward, connecting to yourself. We have so many resources, and I'm going to give you some journal prompt resources, but you have so many resources, whether it be books, whether it be podcasts, whether it be going on Google and searching for a journal prompt, or now you can go on ChatGPT and you can say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Give me some journal prompts for self-reflection. And it's going to be spot on. It's going to check you so much harder than like anybody probably could. But that's what you need. You need to, number one, check yourself, and you need to hold yourself accountable. And if you can't do that, then you need to find somebody that can. Maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a family member, but holding yourself accountable in staying true to yourself is absolutely important on this journey. Another way to get back into alignment is just reaffirming your values, checking back in with your values, with your non-negotiables, with the things that you're not willing to settle on. Because oftentimes what happens is we have our values and then we'll say, oh, but it's okay this time. Or it's not quite, crossing my value. But if it's not in alignment with your values, it's not in alignment with you. And that leads me to the next thing is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries and sticking to your boundaries. If your boundaries are wavering, 10 times out of 10, so are you. So is your life. So is your authenticity. So is your truth. Because if you are not able to set a boundary and stick to it, then you are letting yourself down and you're letting somebody else slowly start to influence the things that you believe in, the things that you value, the things that you're working toward, whatever it may be. And this is something that for me personally has been a larger struggle on my journey, is setting boundaries and using my voice. Because oftentimes when we have people-pleasing habits, we don't want to make anybody feel bad. We're worried about how somebody else is going to feel or how somebody else is going to see us, or not being able to give your best in every situation. But the truth of the matter is that if you are not showing up as your authentic self, then regardless of the situation, you're not showing up as your best. Showing up as your best is showing up as you 100% in your authenticity, in your truth, connected to yourself. And so when we start to understand this, then we're able to better set boundaries. We're able to vocalize the things that are important to us and really have our needs, our values, our purpose met. I think as we are navigating this, especially when it comes to talking about boundaries, it's really important to understand the way that we show up authentically in our relationships. And if we feel like there are expectations put upon us, or sometimes we put expectations from somebody else upon us, and they're not even factual, but making sure that you're not feeling expected to show up as anything other than yourself. And if you're feeling that way, finding ways and finding the proper words to communicate that, hey, this isn't in alignment with me. And anybody who respects you, loves you, values you is going to respect you for saying those things, is going to want to understand, is going to want to work with you. And really respect your boundaries, respect who you are as a person, who you are as your authentic self, and allow you to live in your truth every single day. So if you have connections in your life that are forcing you to live an inauthentic life or live a life of untruth, then I think it's important to reevaluate those relationships, reevaluate those connections, reevaluate those environments. And maybe those things are not for you, even though it feels good. Does it feel good or does it feel true? And I think that's an important question to ask yourself in every situation. Does it feel good or does it feel true? So how do we stay aligned? What are some practices for staying in alignment? First and foremost, daily check-ins with yourself. Taking inventory, morning and night. For a while, I had a morning routine, but my morning routine didn't necessarily consist of checking in with myself, because the first thing that I would do is I would get out of bed, I would get moving, I would make my bed, I would get out of the house, and I would go get some sort of movement in. And recently, I have been prioritizing my sleep more, but I also started to change up my routine, and I started to take the time every single morning to have a slow morning. So if that means that I have to wake up an hour earlier in order for me to have a slow morning, that's what I'm doing, because in that hour, I am taking the time to meditate. I'm taking the time to journal. I'm taking the time to pray. I'm taking the time to connect with myself, connect with God, and take inventory of the day before, and also set intentions for that existing day. And then at the end of the day, doing the same thing. Now, my nighttime routine is a little bit shorter. I only take about 15 minutes in the evening, but taking that inventory at the beginning of your day and setting those intentions at the beginning of the day, checking in with yourself, connecting with yourself, sets you up for such a smoother day than if you're pouring into yourself, but you're still rushing around and you're disconnected from your brain and you're using things to cope in different ways. Sit with it, sit in it, work through it, and that is how you're going to find that alignment. Overall, making sure that you're doing daily check-ins at least once a day. Check in with yourself at least once a day for at least 30 minutes. I promise that in itself will start to change the way that you see yourself, the way that you connect with yourself, and the way that you live in your authenticity. The next thing that's really important is practicing using your intuition. Practicing using your yes and no compass, and practice decision making. Practice making a decision from your own standpoint, not the standpoint of anybody else. And really using your intuition as to, is this true to me? Not does this feel good? Because a lot of things feel good, but they're not true, right? So is this true to me? And your intuition is going to be so powerful. It's going to say yes or it's going to say no very quickly. You might start to second guess it, but your initial thought, your initial intuition reaction is probably going to be your gut reaction. It's probably going to be, yes, this is true, or no, this is not true. And practicing using that, because I think that we get really used to, again, seeking external validation. So whether we're going through something and we're, oh my gosh, first thing I need to do is call a friend and see what they think and see blah, blah, blah. No, how about you sit with yourself? What do you think? How do you feel? What is true to you? What is important to you? And if you take the 5 minutes that you would have taken to call your friend, you're going to have that clear answer. And then the last part is building a lifestyle that reflects your values. Build a lifestyle that is so in alignment. Your career is in alignment. Your relationships are in alignment. Your hobbies are in alignment. Your practices are in alignment. When you start to live every single day in alignment, it's not even about having a routine. Yes, you create a routine naturally, but you recognize that everything that you're doing feels good. It feels true to you. It feels like, hey, this is my life. It allows you to have that main character energy every single day of your life. And if something doesn't feel true, it is up to you to eliminate it, to get it out of your life, to make a change. One of the last things that I want to share with you is allowing yourself to feel discomfort in your authenticity, in your truth. Because oftentimes, living authentically, living in your truth, means that you're going to disappoint others. It means that you're going to have to let go of the need for external validation and seek the validation within yourself and from God. Because you don't need any other validation. You crave it because it feels good. But is that validation true? Does it matter? Does it make you any better? Does it make you any stronger? At the end of the day, it's you and God. And if you know you're doing right by yourself, that's all that matters. And then trusting that the right opportunities, the right people, the right environments, the right situations are always going to find you. Everything in your life is happening in divine timing. And when you are living in your authenticity and when you're living in your truth, you can fully surrender and have faith that everything that is happening in your life is happening for a reason. It's happening for a lesson. It's happening to take you to the next level. It's happening to get you here. And everything that doesn't happen is also not happening for a reason. And you're able to have faith in that, knowing I showed up as myself 1000%, and that opportunity wasn't for me, and I'm okay with that because I know I'm being true to myself. And I think that's the beauty about finally being able to live in your truth. And like I said, living authentically, living in your truth is a constant practice. It's something that we are forever having to pour into and work towards. But at the end of the day, everything that we receive and everything that our life becomes is that much more beautiful because we have acted authentically and truthfully to ourselves. When you align with yourself, everything that is meant for you is also going to align with you. As I mentioned before, I am always trying to practice living a life of alignment and being authentically aligned with myself and living in my truth. But as somebody who has struggled with people pleasing, I can get so caught up in the idea of disappointing or hurting others that I tend to maybe avoid. I tend to maybe keep myself quiet or not use my voice. And as this new year has begun, it's something that I've had to go back and correct myself on. It's something that I have had to really check myself, and others have had to check me and say, hey, listen, you're not quite living in your truth. And then for me to sit there and humbly be like, you know what? You're right. What do I need to do now? How do I move forward now? And so all of these things are things that I have been actively working on, is living in my truth, speaking my truth, and understanding that everything that is for me is for me. And if I am so worried about hurting somebody's feelings and I end up hurting their feelings by saying something that is my truth, that person maybe isn't supposed to be in my life. If that person can't come from a place of understanding in me speaking my truth and me living as me, then maybe that's something that needs to die, or maybe it's something that needs to be worked upon. maybe it's an opportunity for communication and growth. And understanding that as well, oftentimes understanding our truth better and being able to communicate and articulate and share our truth is an opportunity for growth, not only for us, but for our relationships, for the people around us, for the environments that we're in. So I'm sending you so much love and light because I know that it is not easy to actively be doing the work every single day. But I will say that I absolutely know that when I'm living in my truth and when I'm speaking my truth and when I'm being my authentically aligned self is when I am my best self. And it is when all of the blessings and abundance and opportunities flow into my life. So it's a challenge, but I promise you it's worth it. I want to leave you with a couple of journal prompts to take some time to self-reflect, to maybe take some time to get more into alignment with yourself. So the first prompt that I have for you is, what does living in your truth mean to you? And how can you make it a reality if it isn't already? How can you bring more truth to each day? The next prompt is, how do I uphold and maintain my core values from day to day? How do I stay true to those when I'm feeling judged, lonely, out of place? And then the final prompt that I have for you, how do I maintain consistency in who I am and how I show up, no matter where I am or no matter who I'm around? How do I maintain solid boundaries? I hope these journal prompts will help you to step into a little bit more alignment with yourself and help you to live a little more in your truth. And if you're interested, I have a full journal about authentic alignment available on Amazon, available on my website, Authentically Aligned, a 6-week behavior and habit change journal to help you along your journey. Like I said, I am sending you so much love and light. I know it's not easy. You are loved. You are supported. Have a beautiful week.